Well, we've been talking tech. Let's talk about Amazon. It's hitting pause on construction of its second headquarters near Washington as belt tightening continues. This all according to Bloomberg. Wow, Dan, remember, how long did we spend? During that Amazon competition? Where are we going to build? We want municipalities to court us. And then they finally awarded the golden ticket to Arlington. And now what's going on? This story is something.
Yeah, this was a huge to-do, as you said, Julie, when Amazon was talking about building its supposed HQ to companies, cities and towns, counties, states, anything you can name. They were just throwing themselves at Jeff Bezos's feet to basically say, look, come and build your next big headquarters with us. I live in Queens. Long Island City was one of the runner-ups, I guess, in the contest, and thankfully it didn't go here, and my rent stayed the same. But in Arlington, that's where they're supposedly building out this huge headquarters. It's supposed to have 25,000 people eventually, cost $2.5 billion. And now they're putting it on pause. And basically, it comes down to what Amazon is dealing with right now, the decline in overall spending on their e-commerce site. And this is just something. You also can't discount the fact that, look, people want to work from home. Why do you need a gigantic office complex with an indoor forest is essentially what they're trying to do, similar to what they have in Seattle. When people don't want to be there. And so now they're putting pause on the second phase of this project. They already have the majority of the first side built out. They have a few thousand people there already. But, I think this just goes to show that, we're seeing more of this kind of movement when it comes to big tech and the kind of spaces that they are taking up in cities. I know, obviously Facebook doing some consolidation of its own. There were these grandiose plans for it to build out a larger presence. Same thing with Alphabet in New York City. They were going to build out their presence even further. But, you have to wonder if those kind of plans are going to all come to fruition the way they were originally planned, or they're going to kind of go to the wayside as we see, companies continue to grapple with issues, whether it's Amazon and the decline in e-commerce spending, or Google and Meta dealing with the decline in overall digital ad spending. That's likely to come back. But, people just don't want to be in the office after 2-3 years of successfully doing their jobs from home. So, it remains to be seen whether or not we'll see these big, huge projects moving forward.
Dan, I am sorry. I'm just triggered by this. My goodness. I mean, you had Bezos moving forward with a Bachelor-style contestant search for the new city that they wanted to move into. Cities were coming forward like he was the Prince of Zamunda. My goodness, Dan. And now it's just on pause? All right.
I mean, it's wild to me. And you're right. These cities did, they basically bent the knee to Jeff Bezos to get him to say, I guess, christen them with the new headquarters. And now the one that won is kind of dealing with an empty lot for a while, I guess.
All right. Meanwhile, Apple's core iPhone builder, Foxconn, making ever more serious moves to building in India, this time committing to a substantial investment. Dan, tell us more about that one.
Yeah, they're looking at a $700 million build out of a facility, and that could be used to build parts for their devices or devices themselves. And this is probably a larger part of Apple's plan, and not probably, but is a larger part of Apple's plan to get out of China, essentially. Look, they're not going to abandon China. They already have hundreds of thousands of workers there, or they contract hundreds of thousands of workers from Foxconn to build their devices. But they don't trust the fact that, there were issues with the plants during the COVID lockdowns, during the kind of draconian lockdowns we had seen for so long. And I think the political climate is also not as steady as it had been prior to the war in Ukraine and prior to, the I guess you could say butting of heads between the U.S. and China as far as the competition, as far as the two largest economies on Earth. And so, I think Apple is basically saying, look, we want to get out of the way of this. Let's try to get ahead They're trying to build out in India. They already have plants in India, by the way, that are building the latest iPhones. They also want to move to Vietnam and other places in the region of Southeast Asia, rather, beyond obviously India not being in Southeast Asia. And I think, the bigger question here is, how long does it take for that to happen? And frankly, it'll probably take some years for, a significant number of iPhones or Apple devices to start being built there. But it is part of Tim Cook's larger plan. And look, he made his bones at Apple for developing their supply chain. And so you have to imagine if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be him.